Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Zenande Bodlo and today I am back with part 2. If you're watching this, then you know that there's a part 1 where I speak of my pregnancy journey. If you're new here, welcome and thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to please like, please comment and please subscribe. So yeah, let's go into the video. So, being induced. And I was scheduled for induction on the Monday. When I left on the Thursday, I was supposed to come back on the Monday. So I went back on the Monday and I arrived there quite early with my family. It was my aunt, my cousin brother, my mom, and myself. They only induce 3 patients per day. So because I was healthy and was in the right condition, no complications, no nothing, if a lady came, or a patient rather, a pregnant patient, if ufikile on that day and Diana has more risks than I do, maybe let's say if the pregnant woman has high blood pressure or some complications were too, then she will take my place. I will be scheduled for later. So if 3 people are in front of me, then I'll be scheduled to the following day. I'll be moved to the following day, so on and on. So already there were a lot of people there and I arrived early, but yet I was scheduled for Wednesday. So far they admit me and they left me at 3:30 in the afternoon. They left me at 3:30 and they went back to Elliot. It was like an hour after they left, I started feeling weird. I started feeling like I had period pains and they were like intense period pains. So I report to the nurse that was assigned or was assisting me, and I tell her that I feel kind of weird. I feel pain in my lower abdomen. It's like I have period pains. And then she was like, okay, you might go into labor, but we can't confirm now. But if the period pains persist, then we'll look into it. Fine. And then she leaves and I remember I hadn't slept the previous day, so I was trying to fall asleep and I couldn't because I was feeling pain. So I'm like, what are the odds of me going into labor on the day that I'm supposed to be induced? Now, being induced means you take a pill or a liquid that will force you to go into labor. Ne? It's like they force your baby to come out. They just force you to have contractions and uzale right on the day. Now you have 2 options. It's either you induce yourself at home or a professional does it for you, like a professional nurse or a doctor induces your pregnancy. When you're doing it at home, it's either you can drink castor oil, it's either you can have sex, it's either you can taking hot steamy baths and showers. Then that's you inducing yourself. Being induced by a doctor means that they insert something in your lady part or you drink a liquid. Kudala they used to insert labilis. I don't know what they call it now. I forgot. Pitocin, I think. I'm not sure. But they insert that pill or that capsule in your lady part and then you induced. Now the problem of being induced is that you go into labor and your contractions are like 10 times more painful than your normal contractions would be, because you're literally forcing the baby out. So I felt like the fact that I'm here now and I'm literally about to go into labor or about to have contractions, and it's the day where I was supposed to be induced, I felt like it was a miracle. I felt very lucky, although at the time I didn't know that I was really going to labor. But fine, the day goes on. It's now evening around 6, and at that time I was pacing up and down the passages or the corridors of that hospital because I was in pain. I was having contractions, I was in labor, and it was so intense that I was going to the bathroom every 5 minutes. I was vomiting. So I went through that, and when I was sure that I was in labor, I called my mom and my aunt and I told them that so I might not be induced if I'm lucky to give birth to my baby on time. Then they were happy to hear that and they kept on checking me and everything. I called B at some point he played an important role because he kept me calm, you know. And when I was screaming, like, it was painful, he'd keep me calm and tell me to breathe, like, until that contraction was over. So fast forward. So at night, the nurses that were taking care of us or assisting us in that ward changed shifts. So new nurses came in and they were updating them with our situations and how everything was going. And they told them that I'm in labor, I've just started and I was supposed to be induced. So they were just filling them in with everything. And those nurses that were there on that day or that night, they were not as nice as the day nurses, the ones that were assisting us during the day. Because I even had an altercation with one of the nurses. I mean, I was having the most painful contractions ever. It was so painful. And she keeps on telling me that I'm making a noise. Guys, I felt like the more I scrammed, the more I was expressing my pain, it felt better. Because me keeping quiet, it felt like I'm just making it worse. So I felt better when I was screaming. Not screaming as in like loud screaming, but just soft noises like yoo-hoo, hoo, hoo. Man, I was not the only one. But that nurse chose to pick on me and tell me that I'm making a noise and I'm using up my energy, which I will need in the labor ward. We were now at the postnatal ward. Fine, the most painful thing was the belt that was strapped on us to calculate how far our contractions were and everything that was going on in the belly. It's literally 2 belts and I think a square thingy, ebalayo. It's like in your belly button, yeah. So the rest of the ebandi is strapped around your belly. It's 2 belts and they make it so tight. So if you lessen the pressure on the belt, that means it will start all over and count all over again, and it will show on the screen but it was disturbed. I think you have that belt on for like 30 to 45 minutes. It is the most painful thing ever when you're having contractions, because I remember during the day when I got there, when they put me on the belt, it was not as painful. But because I'm having contractions, the baby is moving and the belt is now tightening the baby. It's tightening the belly. You can hardly even breathe on it because you have to lie on your side and wait for 45 minutes. So I kept on complaining that you can't take it off, guys. It's like, yeah, stretch, you can really lessen the pressure, but you can't take it off. So now I was lessening the pressure all the time, so that dikwazi ukuphefumula kahle, and at some point laziphumela. I don't know how, but they told me that you can't take it off. Alikwazi ukuphumela, but yaziphumela kum. So now this nurse came and she was shouting at me and telling me that ayizubala lento because ndilifake kakubi ibhanti lam, or because andihlelanga kahle, or because ndilikhuphile. I think she came back 3 times. I couldn't help it, guys. It was so painful that it was something benginokwazi unyamezela. It was so painful because the minute you get up, now socially upright, everything comes back up and you puke. Because ulele, the pressure is just tightening your belly. Obviously, into uyitele iyenyuka, so it's really not pleasant. Fast forward during midnight, I think she came. Oh, before that, so the one loben naye. So she comes in ati, Bodlo, angiqashwanga nguwe mna. Angiqashwanga nguwe, you won't tell me what to do. Faka elo band ungandixelela uba libuhlungu lizawuthini because ndidikiwe nguwe. Uyangxola apha, you're screaming, you're using up your energy. Awufika na energy pa labor ward. And at that point I was like, child, you can shout at me all you want, but I'm just in pain. So I felt like it really can't lessen the pain that I was in. So I was just focusing on my breathing and my walking up and down. After checking me, she just said, okay, pack your things, we're going to the labor ward. She just said that. So here I am, packing my KFC, my liquid fruit juice, everything that I had, packing my toiletry bag. And I already packed into the small shelf that is right next to my bed, because I thought I would be getting induced on the Wednesday. And I thought I'd been sleeping for like 2 nights, so I'd already unpacked everything. So now she's telling me to pack, and that time she's not waiting for me, she's literally walking out. I don't know where the labor ward is. So I'm like carrying my things here, yeah, baleka emva kwakhe, and we get to the labor ward. She updates the nurse. Oh, when you get to the labor ward, there are other nurses as well who are working there and who are delivering babies in the labor ward. So when we got there, the environment, the atmosphere was very chilled, and it was very warm because they were sitting around a table, they were having coffee, they were chatting, and it was only one girl that was in labor and having contractions at the time. The other lady was in front, was next to me, was next to my bed, and I think she had just delivered a baby and she was just waiting for them to stitch her up because they had an altercation with her as well. But I'll get into that later. So we get there, and that's when I felt like on this by class, you know, because I was wearing I had my hair bonnet on, the pink one. If you've watched my videos, then you would have seen me wearing it when I'm doing my makeup. I always wear that thingy. And I was wearing a silky night dress. So, and I was wearing pink slippers as well. So when they saw me and they saw my file, they saw that Beningahlukuhle clinic, and they saw the first gynae I saw was from Bloemfontein and the other one was from Queenstown. So I don't know, they just warmed up to me. They treated me with so much respect. I don't know where it came from, because they were not nice to the lady that was next to me. They were just talking to her like she was nothing. She was waiting to be stitched up. I think the girl smokes. So when she would call out to the nurses and ask them to stitch her up, the nurses would reply and say, "Asuka, ungamele nje uyokuchaya wena because uyachaya. Ungamele uyochaya uyobona oyakho." And I was shocked because bangenaphi uba uyachaya mntana abantu, they're supposed to do their job. Apparently, they stopped stitching her up because she was complaining that kubuhlungu. So bamiyeka. Andazi ukuthi babemiyeke uba bamiyekile okanye bamiyekile uba they're taking a break and bazaphinda babuye bamstitch her up when she's not complaining anymore. I don't know. But babemiyekile, she was literally lying on her back feeling helpless. So when it came to me, that's where I was shocked, because they treated me differently than they treated her, and I felt like that was a bit unfair. I did not like it at all. In the labor ward, they only have one bathroom, and it doesn't have a sink, it's only a toilet. So when I would go vomit there, it wasn't nice. So I'm vomiting, and then I felt some liquid between my thighs. So I wasn't sure, Uguti, because I was applying pressure into vomiting, I accidentally peed on myself, or my water broke. I didn't know. So I go back and report to the nurses, and I tell them, "Bah, I felt some water. I felt a liquid between my thighs." And then they're like, "Did you know bendio kapa?" So they're like, "No, if bukapa, then it's possible that ukamile as well." Like, andindala. So they put me at ease. They told me that I should go and walk up and down the corridors. And what's worse is that they expect you to wear a mask. Throughout all of the process, I know you have to wear a mask, but it was just so uncomfortable because now you literally have to breathe so heavily. And as much as you can breathe on a mask, but it doesn't feel effective as it would when you would breathe without one. So it was just not comfortable. But I'll always take mine off. Guys, I was doing everything to feel better. Ben shout about I'm not following the rules, but I was like, "Hey, this won't kill you. This won't kill me. Just let me be. Come on." So I would take it off. I'm pacing up and down. And the nurse that was assisting me at the time told me that I must come back to the ward at 2:30. It was now like in the AMs. So she told me to come back at 2:30. I came back at 2. And I was like, "Nurse, I feel a head. I feel like something is pressuring me to push." And I was lying. Because I wanted them to check me, and I wanted them to help me because I was tired. Let me say something. When people tell you stories about things that go on in the labor ward, they might seem like they're exaggerating everything fike besithi bona babetshayela bebeklina bebeqoqosha labor ward abanye bebezibhuqa phansi because of the pain, and you think but nah, not possible, this girl is lying. Please believe them, because I was pulling curtains, child. That is curtains, the color and this tsala, and I was doing things that was so much out of my character, because I think I'm shy, but that day I was praying out loud. So you can imagine how painful it is. I was literally saying, oh wow, please Lord, I'm praying out loud, and I'm not even at the point of giving birth yet. I'm just feeling contractions. I'm just in labor. So if anyone tells you those stories and you feel like they're exaggerating, please trust me, they're not. They're really not. Then this tsala mnekhetins especially this tsala so like this tsaling at ingomo. It was bad. It was really bad. So I asked them, but how many centimeters am I dilated? So I feel like that's why cool, because I was asking questions. I wanted to be informed about my situation. Everyone else was not. Everyone else was just doing what the nurses told them. They were just abiding by the rules. And now I would ask because I want to know. No, you're 7 centimeters. I'm like, 7 centimeters? How did I even get to 5? How did I even get to 7? Hypo. So then I knew, but if I'm 7 centimeters dilated, then I'm close to giving birth. But I thought, but maybe I'll give birth the following morning, because I've heard stories of people going to labor for like 24 hours, 16 hours. And I just prepared myself, like mentally, I prepared myself. Then she looked at me, one peever. When you're peeving someone, it's when you insert your... Did I cover this in my last video? I don't know, but upiva is when the nurse or the doctor inserts their hand up your lady part. It's not pleasant, it's painful, but I think they're trying to feel how far how far you dilated. She just starts packing everything, and then she tells me to push. I'm like, what? She's like, no, push. I'm like, no. Is it that time to push now? Like, she did not prepare me. She did not say anything. At least I would have expected her to say, okay, Zenande, I'm gonna need you to push. You know? But no, she just said, okay, Kesisi, push. And before that, my mom had warned me back at home, like, give it your all, because what happens is when you push and then umntana ufuna ukuza and then uphelwe ngamandla wena and you stop pushing, then umntana aphinda abuye, yonke la back and forth could make the baby tired. Making the baby tired means that uzawuphuma i-heartbeat yakhe sengasabethi, you know. So that's when I felt like I should give it my all. But unfortunately for me, I thought I was pushing, but I actually wasn't. Nothing was happening. So they told me to get off the bed and stand and put my hands against the wall. I could not understand why, but they said force of gravity does something. I don't know what. I couldn't hear them properly. It was just chaotic. I begged them to go back to bed, and I promised that I'll push. Then they allowed me to go back to bed. It was still the one nurse helping me. She allowed me to go back to bed, and I tried to push. So I see she was panicking because she was like, she was shouting at me. And then all of a sudden, I see 3 other nurses coming in a rush. So when they came in, the nurse that was helping me stepped out. She came back with a theater tray. And she said, okay, and then she opened my legs wider, and then all I heard was and I don't think I've ever screamed that loud ever in my life. So she cut me, and she did not give me any warning. She did not give me any pill or anything to make me numb. I just felt everything. And I'm sorry again for putting it out there in so much detail for sensitive listeners and sensitive viewers. I really don't mean to traumatize anyone or to make anyone nervous about giving birth. It's just that we experience the process differently as people, and it won't necessarily be like that for anyone else. But as I said, and I'll always say this was my experience, This is my story. It won't happen. It doesn't mean that it won't happen. It will happen to anyone, or it has happened to any other person. But that was just my experience. So there are 4 nurses in the room, and the other nurse is like there where my leg is. The other one is opposite her. Then there's this one that was right here, like she was right above my face. Like she was doing something to my belly that was so annoying, because she was literally pressing down my belly like bomba. She kept on doing this. I'm like, what are you doing? I know there's no need to breathe now. You have to push. And the other one is like, Senande, push. Come on, just push. And the other one is so gentle. She's like, you're doing great. Push. Try harder. You're doing great. Don't use a voice. Push and then just give it your all. So after some time, I just gave it my all and I released everything. And when I say I released everything, I literally mean I released everything. After that, I heard a cry, and everything was just erased. All the pain, all the trauma, all the blood, it was just erased from my memory, because she was finally here. She cried, and and she peed on me. Like, she literally peed and it was such a nice moment, because everyone was laughing like, yo, hi, oh baby bottle. They took her away to go bath her and get her ready for me. I felt very dizzy. I felt very lightheaded. And I remember I was telling this other nurse, but I feel like I'm gonna faint. And she said, well, you're not gonna faint because you're already sitting on the bed. You're already lying on the bed, so I'll go. I'm like, does that make sense to you? I'm sitting next to another lady who just gave birth, so I'm telling her how I feel, and she's like, no, don't tell them how you feel, because they're gonna check you and then they're gonna admit you. When you get to the oh, no, I made a mistake. Where we were before, I was at the labor ward, was the prenatal ward. Now we were at the labor ward. After we have given birth, they took us to the postnatal ward. So I remember during the beginning of the video, I said I was at the postnatal. I was at the prenatal. My bad. So she was like, when you get to the postnatal, I will give you like sugar water, so that you can get your strength up. And I remember in my file they wrote excessive bleeding. Like, I bled a lot. I couldn't breastfeed. They didn't teach me how to breastfeed. They just gave the baby to me and they went on about their business. So I thought I was breastfeeding, anything. All this time I thought I was breastfeeding, but at some point I was like, can you show me how to breastfeed? To this other lady. The nurse that was supposed to help me kept on saying she's coming, but she never came until I was discharged. So after that, when after you've given birth and they stitch you up, you feel like you've escaped, or you're done screaming and feeling pain. But I felt like, at least nyange, guys, at least the worst part was over. But it wasn't, because after say postnatal ward, before they discharged us, they had to remove membranes. I had 14 stitches. We already stitched, ne? So what they do now is they insert their hand up there again, but now it's more painful because you have stitches on, and stitches. So they kept on telling us, they want to check one more time. They check those membranes before they stitch you up. Membranes are like the clots of blood that get left in your womb. They're very dangerous and you could die. They could cause a cancer if they're not removed. She left the room, la nurse, and she came back with another theater tray. And she told me that she felt something up my womb, which means it could be one of the membranes. She's gonna unstitch me, remove the membrane, and stitch me back up again. At that point, I was like, just do what you have to do. I was really, really scared, guys, because I've been feeling pain the whole day. Like, can I get a break? She did that one check. She stuck her hand up my lady part. She felt something, but luckily, I'm so happy that she double checked, because before she could unstitch me, she felt like, no, let me double check. And then she was pulling on something. And then she was like, hi man, this is not a membrane. Sisibeleko esindisibambileyo. You know when you're so helpless? When you're so helpless and you're like, kyafe, like never like kyafa. I didn't ask any further questions. I was like, you can just imagine the trauma. I don't know if isibeleko sami right ngoku okanye there was some damage made after she tried pulling it out. I don't know. I did not follow up. What I know is that she said it herself, but no man. It's not a membrane. Membranes are very small, like they look like clots of blood. As in, some are bigger than others, but as in, like you can live. The other lady that was taking them out, my nurse, she literally held it like this and she was like, but it could possibly kill you. And I was grateful that they did the checkup again to ensure that there really isn't anything left in our wombs. But the fact that she said those words about Unzala Isbeleko, ha. And I even told my aunt and my mom, and they wanted to go back to Queensland to let it go. Because really, we can't undo what happened. I honestly don't know what would have happened if she continued to pull. I don't know, and I don't want to think about it. But yes, that was the journey. I must say, the nurses and the public hospitals experience was not as bad as I had thought it would be. It was not the greatest, but it was also not that bad, because in my mind I had already told myself, bah, it's gonna be horrible. But what I experienced was really something that I could take. It's not something that I could not take, but it was just bearable. The whole thing was bearable. What I loved about being there was, like I said, the unity between Abahlezana, the helping each other. You were even sharing food. We took baths like all at once because there's like a communal bathroom there, and they were giving us advice. We're giving each other advice about stretch marks and what to use to clean isibeleko. We're having conversations. It was really nice. And one thing I regret is not taking those ladies' numbers. The other thing I liked about being there was in the morning when the matron came. Apparently she does rounds to meet the new babies. I think it's something that she enjoys doing. She came and corridor, we left our babies. They were all sleeping, luckily. We went to the corridor and they started singing hymns. We started doing a young praise and worship, and we all prayed. That's when it hit me, man, it was a life or death situation, because now just praying and thanking God, so we all prayed, and one thing that motivated me was knowing that because you're literally bringing a life into the world. You do need God. You need God more than ever, so it really hit me that moment, but we couldn't have done this alone. Like, we really couldn't have. I'm so happy that I was healthy and the baby was healthy. Everything just worked out. So yeah, that's my story. That's my pregnancy journey, part 2. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for clicking on this video. I do hope that the story was a bit informative, even though it's me telling my story and telling my experience, but I do hope that it was informative and it will help someone in terms of doing better research when it comes to medical aid, in terms of knowing your birth plan and sticking to it, and not be forced to do an operation just because the doctor says so. Do research, know everything that you want to know, like read up on things, do as much research as you can about giving birth via operation, giving birth naturally. Just do your research and make sure you know everything before you go there, because the doctor might just say, but I'll induce you, without telling you why. So ask questions and tell them why you're not comfortable with being induced if you're 100% healthy. Rather wait until you're in labor than forcing labor. That's my advice to anyone who is pregnant or anyone who would like to start a family. I have a surprise at the end of the video. I hope you liked the video. Please comment, please subscribe, please click on the notification bell so that you can get a notification every time I post a video. Till next time.